I am back to talk a little bit more about webinars. And today, what I'm going to dive into is how you can maximize a webinar to make it really versatile and multi-purpose the content. What are those best practices and what are the places that you should be repurposing all of that content? I'm Cortney Galster. I'm a digital marketing expert. I work with professional service firms, B2B firms, community banks, financial firms, and health tech companies to create growth in their business by leveraging digital marketing to support the sales process. So, got something on my mouth. The first thing to think about with a webinar is number one, format. I talked about that a little bit at the end of my last video. No matter how you present your webinar to the public, whether you do it live or it's pre-recorded, always record it. It has to be recorded. You want it recorded start to finish. You want to be able to manipulate it a little bit so that you can cut out things that you maybe don't want to be in the permanent version of the webinar. Like maybe what happened on the last episode that I did with a client was the lights shut off in the middle of the webinar. And so then when we recorded it, we were able to edit it out. Arthur, my Doberman, is joining us today. He joins me on some of our videos because he can get in my office, but he can't get out of it. So knowing that you're going to record that is really important. And then knowing that you have a tool to edit that, which I'll get into in the next video, what tools we use to do all of this editing. But that is kind of step number one, is making sure you record your content and do all of that edits. And now I always recommend taking that full length version, posting it on YouTube and repurposing it for your website. So making sure that you're getting that full visibility and allowing people to come back and revisit the content. You could also look at doing it as an on-demand webinar or reuse it as an automated webinar in the future. But oftentimes for our clients, that's too much work or it's too much content with the volume of content that they have going out, and they would rather just repurpose the content. So we do it that way. We put it on YouTube. Oftentimes we put it on the website in some sort of video library, and that works really, really well. The next place to look at multi-purposing that. And now this is, I'm gonna couch this in a disclaimer after I say this. So we do have clients that repurpose webinars as a podcast episode. That doesn't mean that's right for everybody. So podcasts can be a very time-intensive mechanism as part of your marketing plan. If you are looking to create a podcast that generates a lot of engagement for your business, this is not the right strategy for you. Simply taking a bi-monthly webinar or a monthly webinar and reusing it as a podcast is not going to generate external organic traction. What it is going to do is it's going to give you something to point to for people who like listening to podcasts that are already familiar with your brand, and they can go download that podcast and listen to it. And or it gives you this weird credibility, especially in B2B, where people think, oh, you have a podcast that's so cool. They may never go and listen to it, but just the fact that you have this content available in a podcast is great. So it's one place that you can multi-purpose it, but this is not the podcast strategy. It's a component of a podcast strategy. So I always wanted to just give that little disclaimer. You can repurpose that full-length content on your podcast. I recommend it. If you have a podcast set up, don't set up a podcast just to showcase your webinars. Okay. The next place is probably the most valuable thing that you can do with your webinar, and it's to split your webinar up into clips. We use an AI tool that tells us what is most likely to go viral, and then we kind of take that and intuitively adjust it based on the content that it pulls. So it's not done in a bubble where the AI can give us the information and it's done, but it helps us get to those clips that are going to be most valuable to your audience. Now, having something that's going to help you generate clips is really important. Length of clip is important. I typically like a 30 to 60-second clip, but sometimes I will go longer than that. The reason why I like 30 to 60 seconds is that it's more digestible, it's really quick, and on platforms that you're going to reshare it on outside of LinkedIn, like YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, those under 60-second clips tend to perform the best because they're classified a little differently on the platform. So those clips are really important. We usually get, depending on the length of the webinar, if I have a 20-minute video, I typically pull 5 clips from it. If we have a 40-minute webinar, we can get up to 10 clips from it, but it really depends on how we're going to repurpose those. I'm a little bit more selective because there can be just too much information. Or if we have a partner on, we may only want to feature the client's kind of knowledge in those clips and then push people to go watch the full length video. We may not use the partner in the clips depending on how we're using them. So that kind of skinnies down the volume of content that we can reuse. So you kind of have to go after that with a strategy. And that's on a webinar by webinar basis. Like, you may only want to showcase that expertise that you have in these 30-second clips because it's so quick, and you're really looking to promote your brand in those clips, not everybody else's. You're looking to kind of get the value out of having these partnerships and relationships on the webinar that you're doing, but not necessarily in the clips. I hope that makes sense. I kind of went on a little tangent there. So then the next thing to do is ask your partners to reshare the full length video. They're in the full length video, ask them to reshare. That's a great way to get that content in front of a new audience. And then make sure that you're doing some sort of email blast with that replay. So sending out that replay link to the people that attended or the people that signed up but didn't attend. You could send it out to your entire list. And then I would always repurpose it in a newsletter. And oftentimes we'll repurpose it a couple of times in a newsletter where we'll create kind of a list of most recent webinars that a client has engaged in, has produced, and let that kind of live. And then we'll rotate that content out over time as they produce fresh content. So I hope that's helpful. Those are all of the places that I would repurpose and reshare content. And if you have questions, as always, please feel free to reach out. Happy to help you create that strategy. My contact information is below and in the show notes. I will talk to you soon. Have a great day.